Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of my new podcast, Hiring and Inspiring, a show where I talk all things sales, recruitment, business, leadership, personal development, and pretty much, kind of anything else in between. Now, today's chat is going to be focused on the recruitment side of things. I've got a fellow recruiter on the show. My guest is a chap called Lachlan Briggs-Gordon. It's a guy I've connected with on LinkedIn. And he is, hope he doesn't mind me saying, a relative newcomer into the recruitment industry, 6 months into his role. So really looking forward to having a chat with Lachlan and get stuck into how he's getting on and talk all things recruitment. And I understand he's made a good start. So I'm keen to learn a bit more. So Lachlan, with that intro, welcome to the show, mate, and how you getting on?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Joe. Going really well, thanks. How about you?
Good stuff. Yeah, all good this end. All good this end. Thanks, mate. And I appreciate your time I appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with me this morning. So, just to sort of kick things off, as I said, you've been in recruitment, relatively short period of time. I think, was it 6 months now ish, into your new role, working at it's Fine Staff Australia as a
Yep.
business development manager. So, bit of a broad question here, mate, but just tell me how you getting on. How you finding the first 6 months in the world of recruitment?
Yeah, thanks for that, Joe. 6 months today, actually, funny
Oh
enough.
right,
So
okay, yeah,
yeah, good timing.
yeah,
Yeah, it's been a really interesting sort of transition for me because I come from a sales background,
yeah.
fundamentally. So I previously worked for 99 Bikes.
Hmm.
And that's a very different environment because sales inquiries can, if it's a really sort of complex, long inquiry, will last for an hour. You're in the same location, and you're selling a product. So, the start to finish being a 1 hour from they walk in not
Yeah,
really knowing what they want to actually leaving and I've received payment for the product.
yeah,
Yeah. It's very different to the new role, which is centered around business development.
yeah,
So it's an industry I haven't worked in a role that I haven't done.
yeah.
So learning how to build a sales pipeline um, and how to I suppose like develop the business um, as a sort of extension of sales capability has
Yep.
been a I think a really valuable skill to learn and a really sort of I've found it really fun. But it's been a very sort of steep learning curve from day one.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I've had from that time where I started quickly had some good success, and then through January, it was difficult um, to sort of get appointments and get in front of people,
Yeah,
and just sort of the ebbs and flows of just the nature of the work has been um, a really sort of unique um, sort of learning position for me to be in.
yeah,
Um, and I've had conversations with people around sort of the post Christmas time frame, and everyone says the same thing about it. But it's without experiencing, it's hard to really know what it's
yeah.
like to be in that position. So, but overall, really enjoyed it and really
Yeah.
enjoying sort of learning and getting um, into that side of things. So yeah, all good from from that standpoint. Yeah.
Nice one.
Nice
Yeah.
one, yeah.
So
So
you
you
mentioned there's been a few ups and downs. What would you say the biggest sort of the things that you've enjoyed the most have been, and also what have been some of the biggest challenges so far?
the thing that I've enjoyed the most definitely is having conversations with business people.
Yeah.
You know, it's a unique opportunity to to kind of choose who you approach in business development, and
Yeah.
you can actually afford to be selective in in your sales strategy,
Yeah.
um, and through that, yeah, choose exactly who you want to talk to, and the topic. I mean, look, I break this down in that my job is to drive around Victoria effectively
Mm.
and talk to business people about business stuff, and I love
Mm.
it.
Mm.
Um, so that's and that's what drew me into the role. You know, there was a period where I was looking to take the next step in my career,
Yeah.
um, and I was I was looking at a few different types of roles. Fundamentally, it was business development
Yeah.
were the but a couple of different industries, and then in talking to a few recruiters, they suggested that recruitment could be a
Yeah.
good path, and it was kind of along the lines of, you know, have you considered recruitment
Yeah.
um, as a career option? And I hadn't.
Mm.
Um, and so in weighing up the choices of, you know, I'd applied for a few recruitment firms who were looking for entry level sort of consultants, either in, you know, initially 180 roles, merging
Yeah.
turning to 360 roles, and I received a couple of offers from different businesses, and in the end, chose to go the business development route,
Yeah.
because that's the aspect of it
Yeah.
um, that I really love, you know.
Yeah.
And people have really interesting stories, you know, if you take the time to listen to them and break down ideas with them, and um, uh, they're they're very varied, and um, and no two businesses are the same. Everyone's got different ideas about how to lead people, and how to strategize, and what selling is and what leadership is, and
Yeah.
I find all that stuff fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Biggest challenge has been, I think for me, it has been that kind of learning the industry and the role, being
Okay.
that with my background being sales, and I'm quite strong in that area without uh, trying to not sound like I'm bragging or
Mm.
anything. Um, uh, so sales is my background, and it's something that I've been in for years, and that and the
Yeah.
customer service side.
Yeah.
So, you know, implementing that has not been challenging. It's
Okay.
every other part of it um, is very new, and so um, you know, the you know, people tell you before you enter recruitment as an industry that there are highs and lows, and that it can be really challenging, and that, you know, you might not see results um, for a while, and then suddenly
Yeah.
you see a few really good results, and it's not this sort of um, uh, consistent feedback that you get from
Yeah.
uh, you know, day to day sales type of
Mm.
environment. So that's been the most challenging thing. I think, you know, partially for my ego. It's, you know, it's humbling a
Yeah.
little bit
Oh
to
yeah.
not just
Yeah.
constantly be fed success to an extent.
Mm.
But uh, uh, it's it's a good, I suppose, in the fact that it's humbling, um, allows you to um, grow a sense of humility
Yeah.
around that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that sense of humility that you've picked up in the first 6 months, and grounding yourself a little bit. What else have you? Well, that's a massive learning, by the way. But what else have you learned about yourself from doing 6 months in recruitment?
Um, it's a good question. the biggest thing for me has been the time management.
Okay.
It's not something that I've ever had to rely on particularly. Is a really strong sort of time management skill,
Yeah.
but it's crucial in this role
Yeah.
to be prepared, but also to be organised, and both of those things fall under that time management,
Yeah.
and so that's something I've had to really nail down and practice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that I was, desperately bad at it. Generally pretty organised, and um, but it is a very different skill.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've noticed is that as I've developed that skill within recruitment, the your life just gets so much easier.
Yeah.
If you're really sort of recording, and this is something my dad used to say when I was younger. He said, "He who keeps the best notes wins."
Okay. I like that.
And
Yeah.
and in terms of that organization, um, and time management, it is that it's
Yeah.
if you're on top of your piece of the pie, and you can look at everything you're working on, and easily find where
Yeah.
you're at with it, and your next steps, and that's broken down as in a time frame, then your life is so much easier.
Yeah. An old boss of mine, an old mentor in recruitment, once many years ago said to me, to be successful in recruitment, you've either got to be very well organized or have a great memory.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm not quite sure what I fit into, to be honest, out of those two, but still figuring it out. But I don't know if that resonates with you as well.
Yeah, I think I'm probably average at both of those. But if you put them together, maybe
Yeah.
that's the outcome that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Normally I would say I've got an all right memory, but
mm,
there's always that one thing that slips through the cracks, and you end up with a grenade. So
yeah.
the organization thing has been a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like we've only been chatting here for sort of 10, 15 minutes or so, but I think it sounds like and I feel like you're probably pretty comfortable on the sales aspect side of things. So picking up the phone, speaking to decision makers, winning new clients, having those meetings, building rapport, etc., etc.
Mm.
It's more around the other side of things, the managing your pipeline, managing your diary, the systems and processes that are crucial to having success outside of recruitment, which is because recruitment is sales, but it's so much. There's so many other things to try and get right for you to have success in a role like this. Is that fair? Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, the communication side of things is something that I've always been really strong on, and I've always been
Yeah,
a very talkative kind of person, and
yeah,
love to break things down, and that meant that in my previous role with 99 Bikes,
mm,
I was the area trainer for the Western Suburbs team. So I did a lot of the sales training for
yeah,
that side of the city. Um, it was seven stores, no, seven teams, um, who sort of fell under my territory for
mm,
the training, and so when it comes to the sales side of things, I I love breaking down the concepts beneath, say, each step in the sales process,
okay,
and looking at how how do you handle objections, and how do you build rapport, and what um, why do you do things in this order, and why is it so important,
mm,
um, and analyzing that. So it meant that in store I was a I was a good coach. It meant that in the classroom sessions that I would run, we could dive deep into those sorts of ideas,
Yeah.
and the feedback that I got from those sessions was always really positive, and that's just a part of a part of me, in that way, is that I've got um, that sales attitude, and
Yeah.
um, but I align it with a noble selling purpose.
Mm.
Um, Rather than, I really don't like the idea of predatory sales tactics. You know, there's an honest approach that yields better results anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that that side of things was, I guess, to go back when I was looking to take the next step in my career, it was always going to be a sales focused appointment, um, uh, but you're right. The other side of things is very new and quite different. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. While we're talking sort of all things sales, just picking up on something you said earlier on about, one of the things you're enjoying about the role is um, the sort of the strategic side of things, deciding which clients, to partner with and winning those as customers for yourself. And it's one of my sort of favorite parts of the role as well, because it's a rare, in my opinion, it's a rare sort of opportunity in our role to get a little bit strategic. A lot of what we do is on the fly, go, making decisions, thinking on your feet. When sort of that account selection piece, when working in a sales role in recruitment, it is one of those rare opportunities where you get to step back and sort of decide, right, which accounts am I going to be targeting? Why am I targeting them? Fitting them into sort of ideal customer profiles based on size, sectors, industries, all kinds of things which the boxes you're ticking for, and it's something I enjoy. You mentioned it's something that you enjoy as well. What's your, I guess, process, your sales process when it comes to identifying like an ideal target customer for yourself, and then how do you go about, say, once you've identified it, what's your steps for then attempting to win that as a customer for yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my the way that I look at sort of prospect um, businesses is it's, do I want to work with this business? Um, and and can we help them?
Yep.
Um, so what that means is, um, are they the right size?
Yep.
Is it the right industry? All of those sort of factors around the business. But it's also selecting on, from a sales standpoint, um, selecting businesses to approach that I believe I can draw a needs benefit with. Um, uh,
Okay. Yeah.
by which I mean, is there a way that I can approach this business, um, that straight off the bat it's clear that, from their standpoint, that would be advantageous to work
Yep.
specifically with us. Um,
Yeah.
Not even just recruitment generally, but with us, and so
Yeah.
sometimes it's things like, okay, I'm working with a different business on this street, um,
Hmm.
and leverage off that credibility, um, or we are currently recruiting for this role in this area. So, for example, receptionist role, you know. Um,
Hmm.
so we're recruiting for a receptionist role in the town I live, Heidelberg.
Mm.
Um, so there's another business who are looking for a receptionist, and they've got a CCAT up. So I might call
Mm.
them, so long as they fit the profile of the size of
Yeah.
business and the industry, um,
Yeah.
and all of all of those factors. I might call them up and say, wanted to talk to you around this role because we are recruiting for another business doing in a similar role down the road. So we've got
Yeah.
a candidate pool um,
Yeah.
of people who are ready to go. Um, so
Yeah.
depending on sort of what is the link there, that also sort of um, guides my selection in terms of what what I'm going to approach. I don't like to approach businesses that I'm not confident that I'd be able to actually um, uh, uh, talk to and break down what their requirements are and
Yeah.
really get to know their story
Yeah.
to then make a an appropriate recommendation. So
Yeah.
and that's sort of the beauty of the of that sort of strategic building the sales pipeline point is that you can do that. You can find out exactly what it is that you are aiming at and go for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. What I like about it is it's when you're actually selecting a target sort of account because you genuinely believe you can help them. The word there is genuine because one, you're sort of picking up the phone, you're making contact with belief that you can actually help them, rather than you're not just making a call for the sake of making a call.
Mm,
Um, and then leading with that value, as in, I have helped similar companies to yourself. It's a strong message
mm.
because rather than just calling, it's Lachlan, I'm the best recruiter in the world, blah blah blah. You're actually leading with real live examples. So yeah, it's a strong message, man. I like the approach.
You know what it comes
Um,
down to, Joe,
yeah, go on. Yeah,
is that um, from my standpoint, I think a lot of people have this misconception about businesses generally, and it's recruitment as as an industry, but um, virtually anything that involves selling, whether it's B2B or B2C, um, people have this misconception about businesses that they make money, and I this is sort of one of the more transformative realizations that I had in talking to a close friend of mine is that businesses do not make money. They they have their thing that they do, which is their purpose,
yeah,
and the money is really a representation of the value that the market places on them,
okay,
on the product that they're selling, on the service that they offer, whatever that is, But um, fundamentally, it's not about making money, and it can't be. The money comes through offering that purpose, um, and really aiming at that. Because if you lose sight of that, then you're
so
not going to be
targeting
making money
your
anyway.
approach to yeah. So targeting your approach based on kind of what they do rather than the the financial piece.
Oh, it's more um, what that comes back to is the idea of helping businesses more so
Yeah.
than in the targeted approach, if that makes sense. So the motivating factor is helping businesses.
Yeah.
That's the purpose, you know.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
if you're purpose driven, the money comes from that. But you can't be profit or money driven without
Mm.
aiming at that purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. No, gotcha. Um, cool, mate. Thanks for running through that. So just switching it up, talking about, you're now, in recruitment, and you mentioned earlier it was a sort of step up. You're looking to progress your career. Um, what did you mean by that? Like, what were you kind of looking for um, as that progression into recruitment from, say, that the B2C environment you were in before? Where did that sort of drive come from?
Um, in the position I was in, I'd had quite a lot of success.
Yeah.
So I was one of the top performing sellers or salespeople in the state, and even to be fair, in the company, um, and qualified for global balls through them through that
Nice.
through those results, where the company pays for you to go on a holiday, basically. The last one was in New Zealand, and they had the presets play for us, um, and so I'd done that, and one of the stores that I was working in, we as a team um, broke the December record over the
Yeah.
Christmas period.
Cool.
So we were the number one shop in the country, and I think in the world, because I think we'd opened stores in New Zealand by that stage.
Mm.
Although I could be wrong about that. So about 60 stores either way, and we were number one for the year and broke the record. And as far as we know, it's we don't think that record will ever be broken.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I'd been with the company for 3 years, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do for forever.
Okay.
Um, to be a salesperson in that B2C environment.
Yeah.
Um, I'd kind of done everything that I wanted to achieve in
Mm.
working there in that time, and um, I I sort of took a step back and thought about, what else do I have to learn through this? What else do I have to contribute? What else do I have to achieve here? And I spoke to the state manager about it, and um, between him and me, and like anyone that I spoke to about it, was, yeah, I think it's it. I think that it's all been done. I don't know
Yeah.
that
Right.
there's much
Yeah.
more from here. So then it's okay. So where to from here?
Mm.
Um, and yeah, through that sort of discovery of um, of where do I want to go next? Um, what what do I really find interesting? What do I enjoy? What are the aspects of my job that I really look forward to? And let's think, if I could have any job, what would it be? Um,
Yeah.
and and so dialing it back from, if I can have any job, what could it be? It's okay, what job can I realistically get?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and um, and so that's through that process of applying for jobs, and I mean, when you're applying for jobs, inevitably you talk to recruiters, being introduced
Mm.
to that idea. So I did a lot of research into what does a recruiter do? What does a business development manager do? Because I really didn't know. Um, but
Yeah.
in doing that discovery and finding out, um, yeah, I was just drawn to it, and so
Yeah.
that's landed me here today.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. And talks of sort of the future. You're moving forward 6 months in. Where do you see your sort of career progressing? Where would you like to go from here in recruitment?
Yeah, good question. I'm a big um, uh, like, I'm very passionate about leadership.
Yeah.
So I'm in a 180 role at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, I have look up in the way that Fine Staff sort of progresses staff internally is that there's the opportunity to move into a recruitment manager
Yeah.
position and do the 360. I don't know if that is what I want to move into
Yeah.
longer term. It's something that I'm thinking about. Okay, like, what are the options in moving forward? And in my role as it is, I'm taking on a couple of different projects internally,
Yeah.
and just trying to sort of gain as much as I can and as many skills as I can. But
Yeah.
um, the short answer to that question is that I think longer term would be um, I would like to, I think, lead a sales team in some
Yeah.
capacity. I've done work like that previously and been in that sort of training and mentorship
Yeah.
kind of role and really love that
Mm.
side of the work. So um, that's probably where I see myself headed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. Gotcha. I think, well, my experience, it's still early days, so almost the goal at the moment is learning still.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's what you're trying. The first 6 months to year is the steepest learning curve in recruitment. So that's when you're doing what you're doing, putting in the reps, making a bunch of mistakes. Um, but that's the goal right now. That process of learning and developing. That's what you're looking to do, and then. But then the lofty ambitions for management and leadership, but it's great to have those, and I think that's very commendable, mate, on that front.
Yeah, I find that side of things tricky because I can hardly plan out the next 5 minutes.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
what happens is so unpredictable and
yeah,
things change very quickly. So I'm always
yeah,
hesitant to to kind of
yeah,
try and pinpoint an outcome or a destination
yeah.
in that
That
way.
that whole what your 5 year plan question is always I'm not a fan of that question really, because it's I find it's just very unpredictable, as you say, to sort of to try and predict.
Yeah, it never
You know,
it never works out
years.
that way. No one
Yeah,
never has a 5-year plan and sticks to it like
no, exactly.
that.
You mentioned just then you're very passionate about leadership and you're interested in it. What is it about the topic of leadership that I guess excites you and or it intrigues you?
Yeah, good question. And actually a tricky one, I think. Um, there's I think being able to influence people for a positive outcome
Yeah,
is it's exciting, and seeing through good leadership a vision come to life.
yeah,
You know, and a team working towards the same goal is it's a beautiful thing. Like you really when you're in that environment and everyone is on and they're engaged and it's on the back of something that you've built and um there's no there's no fear. It's not management, so to speak. It is leadership that
yeah,
that that facilitates that. Um, it's the most fun that you can have
yeah,
working with a team like that.
yeah,
Um, so I love that. And the opportunities that I've had to do that um, have been just
mm,
profoundly positive um, and
yeah,
and so it's always something that I look towards
yeah,
is yeah, how can we manage our culture, for example, really well in order to achieve
mhm,
the sort of desired effect. Um,
yeah,
how do we how do we um, how do we set a standard of sort of professional discipline where people within your team are engaged enough to to put it simply follow the rules,
mm,
um, but follow the rules because it's the most efficient, it's the best way to achieve their goal. And again,
mm,
it's a
okay,
shared goal, but it's intrinsically motivated in
mm,
that kind of way. And I think culture has to be carefully managed um,
yeah,
around that. If there's issues that come up, they need to be stamped out pretty pretty quickly. And I think that's the thing that people underestimate about building a strong culture um, is that it's not as simple as setting the standard and then it's a set and forget thing. Um, it's in reality, it's um, setting the standard and then carefully managing and maintaining it. Um,
Yeah.
and you put all those pieces together and you achieve this thing as a team and you get to celebrate together. You celebrate your wins together and everyone gets around each other.
Mm.
And like any team, when you have those um, those bonds and successes and everything, and you're able to sort of build on that, and it comes off the back of your vision. It's wonderful, you know.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. You touched upon just now this topic of, I guess, leadership versus management. Um, how would you define the differences between those two?
You manage boxes, you lead people. That's how I
Okay,
would to put that
nice. Yeah,
really. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think that I mean there's the old kind of I guess meme. It's a cartoon you might have seen where the leader is at the front of the cart with everyone pulling the rope over the shoulder kind of thing, and
right. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
the manager sits on the chair pointing to telling everyone else where to pull him along.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and that there's still aspects of management within leadership that are important. Like I said, like you you have to manage culture. Um,
mhm,
and part of that is, you lead by example and you set those standards and you don't micromanage um, and you influence and that sort of thing. But when there are really sort of breaches of your cultural expectations, they have to be they have to be managed. So um, the difference, I think, I guess, in all of that is that people are not um, are not like pawns that you can move around on a chessboard.
mm,
They're it's not as simple as you can see them um, as a resource, and at a deeper level, a manager looks to get what they can out of their people. A leader looks to give everything they can to their people.
yeah,
And that's the fundamental difference, I think, between the two.
yeah. No, I love that. Leadership is action. I always think
Mm,
leadership is actually doing the thing, as you say, rather than telling the thing.
yeah, yep.
No, very, very wise words, mate. Cool. Just one final sort of question from me to wrap things up. This is more, I guess, personal to you rather than the sort of broader topics we've been discussing. But this is more to you as an individual, and it's a bit of a closing question I've got here on this show where I talk around the topic of success and what it means to different people. It's something I guess I'm interested in pretty deeply. So to you, Lachlan, what does, and you can take this whichever way you like, but what does success mean to you in your life?
Yeah, that is a good question. You've asked a few good questions today, Joe.
Thank you, mate.
I think success, it's kind of a pursuit of happiness type
Yeah,
type deal for me. I don't. The impression that I get is that it isn't a destination um, necessarily, because by someone's definition, or maybe my own definition 5 years ago, then I've got it made today. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I've made it. I am successful. Um, but by my own definition, I know there's still more work to be done.
Mm,
And so I think I think it's worth having that drive, the ambition,
yeah,
whilst still being able to look around and stop and smell the roses,
Yeah.
as they say,
Yeah.
and recognize the position that you're in, and in that I feel that I am successful, um, because I have my health and I have happy relationships. I have
Yeah.
a fiance. We're getting married toward the end of this year. We live in a nice house with a dog, and
Yeah.
across all of those things, it's I could have more money, more stuff,
Mm.
and whatever around that, but that doesn't impact the things that are really important to me.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, at least not in a positive way, I would think. So
Yeah.
um, so that's what it means to me um is the opportunity to look around and have gratitude for the position
Yeah.
that I'm in. That's success.
Yeah. I like it. It sounds like it's uh, learning to enjoy the pursuit, as you say. I
Mm,
like that. Like enjoying the actual process of doing wherever you're going.
yeah,
But then taking the time when needed to step back and reflect with that sort of sprinkle of gratitude, as you say. Really good
absolutely.
answer, mate. Love it. Well, mate, thanks a lot for coming on the show and have a chat with me. Really appreciate taking the time and sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom. 6 months into your role in recruitment, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of say I was at that time, and a lot of industry professionals. So you're doing some great stuff, mate. Really, really good work, and keep it up. So thanks again for coming on the show, mate. Lachlan Briggs-Gordon, take it easy, mate.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.